We begin tonight with the government's changes to employment law, and there have been many and varied reactions to them this afternoon. Unions are pledging to continue the fight against the 90-day trials, which will remain in place for small businesses under law changes announced by the government today. The proposed law rolls back a lot of the changes to collective bargaining and unions and union access that the previous National-led government had put in place, a move which National claims will hit the job market. The Minister, Ian Lees-Galloway, will join us later in the program, but first here's our Deputy Political Editor, Chris Bramwell.
Labor campaigned on replacing the 90-day trial period with a system it said would be fairer. But after being lobbied that the trials are helpful, particularly for smaller businesses, the policy has been changed. Jacinda Ardern says it was New Zealand First that pushed to keep the 90-day trial in place for those small businesses.
I want to make clear, though, that in all of our discussions, they were very clear that they wanted to weed out those employers who weren't acting responsibly in the way that they were engaging with employees, but this was certainly something they advocated for.
Jacinda Ardern says it's simply the reality of being in a coalition government that compromises have to be made. The Green Party co-leader James Shaw says his party remains opposed to 90-day trials, but it will support the legislation.
This is not a bad law, it's good. This is a good reform. It doesn't go quite as far as we'd like it to, but it's going to affect, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people positively. And we'll just keep looking for other opportunities to keep pushing the boat out.
The National Party leader Bill English says the watering down of the policy shows how weak the government is.
It can be influenced. It's concerned about the drop in business confidence, and I would say to New Zealand First, who are close to a number of big job-rich industries, and to small businesses out there and employer organisations, put pressure on this government.
The National Secretary of E2 Union, Bill Newson, says it's disappointing the 90-day trial remains in place at all, and the union will be arguing at Select Committee for it to be scrapped completely.
We believe that they are unduly unfair to working people. We believe in trial periods. We understand they're important, but we think that they should be fair to workers and employers. And also the evidence shows, and the last government's own evidence showed, that the 90-day trial periods were not having the effect on increasing employment that they were designed to have.
Jacinda Ardern says the government will do further research into 90-day trial periods to find out what the real effect is on businesses and their staff.
There's been a lot of anecdotal evidence that's presented, but nothing really that delves any deeper. And look, what we're really clear on from the outset is, unlike the last government, we don't see this as a device to increase job creation.
The legislation also rolls back most of National's changes to collective bargaining and union rights. These include restoring the duty to conclude bargaining, unless there's a good reason not to, removal of the right for employers to refuse to bargain for a multi-employer collective agreement, and the restoration of the right of unions to be able to go onto a work site without prior employer consent. The Chief Executive of the Employers and Manufacturers Association, Kim Campbell, says taken as a whole, those changes will remove a lot of flexibility for employers, which in turn is bad for productivity and workplace harmony.
Embedded in this is code for a lot of union control, where, bearing in mind, only 15% of the workplace is in a union. But I caution everybody, this has got a long way to go. The Minister has made it quite plain and clear that there will be consultation and a robust Select Committee process. So we expect that as this moves through, we'll maybe make things a little bit more workable.
Kim Campbell says he's heartened by how open and willing to consult the new government is, and how the three parties in power are working together, calling it refreshing. The legislation will be introduced to Parliament on Monday and debated in early February. A tui te wharipari mata mō te hōtaka o te ahiahi nei, ko Chris Bramwell ahau.